Even though Dead by Daylight is getting ready to release one of its most anticipated chapters on June 17th with Five Nights at Freddy's, it's also coming out with probably one of its most frustrating developer updates. In the 9.0 update, DBD is introducing measures to prevent players from going next and extreme hiding. Now, while these might sound like good things, I'm going to explain why these are frustrating. The going next prevention takes away survivors' ability to make unhook attempts in quote-unquote the beginning of the match unless they have unhook perks and offerings. There's a couple of things that's frustrating about this. First off, in the Reddit thread, the developers weren't even able to tell us what the beginning of the match means. There's no timer, no number of generators, just quote, the start of the match, end quote, and then going on to say they don't have any specifics. I don't know how you're able to, use the developer tag on Reddit, like the developer account, and not be able to share specifics with the players, especially with something like this. Like, you should be able to say, like, after a generator's done, or after so many minutes, especially if you're going to make comments to say, like, it's the attitude that kind of gets me with this one, but to say, like, unless this is, like, the fastest match ever. But this lack of information is especially frustrating when you consider this doesn't fix the problem. If a player is trying to go next, is stuck in the game, these developers have created a scenario where these players are going to sabotage their team. They're going to sabotage the map. I know personally, I've unhooked people that was trying to leave early, and then they just run around the map. They're dropping pallets, they're vaulting windows, they're like running straight to the killer. Like, they are not helping the team whatsoever. And now you've got the developers forcing that situation. It also feels like they've introduced the DC bots for no reason. I know myself and plenty of people on my TikToks have said that they would rather have the crappy DC bots than a player who doesn't want to be there. Because even if the bot does the objective poorly, that's still more progress than someone who's going around sabotaging the game. And frankly, I don't care that this is a reportable offense. It's been a reportable offense, and it hasn't stopped it from happening. Like, we see it all the time. Like, they clearly don't care that they can be reported and banned for this, because they're doing it now. And I feel like in the same spirit, this issue applies to extreme hiding. So the extreme hiding, it's an update to the game's AFK detection system. So instead of just standing still being what constitutes being AFK, it's now not working on an objective. So it means if you're not doing generators, totems, in chase, healing, like if you're not doing something, so like you could be running around the map and still be considered AFK. Like, you could be walking to an objective, like you could be trying to hide, and if you do it long enough, you could be considered AFK. Again, I don't think they had a timer on it. I don't know if it's a different timer than like if you were to stand still. I saw mixed things during the PTB on like what triggered the AFK timer. But like, what especially sucks about this change is that it stems from a real issue and like a real need in the game. So the original thing players were asking for was a loss of collision when you're considered AFK. This is something they gave us, but this was asked for because you could get killers or other survivors body blocking players, so they couldn't move, so they couldn't, do objectives. So players wanted a loss of collision, so if they were body blocked, they could, be unblocked and they wouldn't be held hostage. And for whatever reason, Behaviour is like, we're gonna go a step past that. And this seems like a pattern of behavior from Behaviour. They don't know how to make balance changes when there's like a glaring issue in the game. Like, they hear the player base ask for something, and then they have to take it a step further than that, which leaves the game unbalanced. One of the first instances I think of when I think of this is with the hatch and key update a couple years ago. So players asked for an animation to be added when unlocking the hatch. When there was no animation, it made the hatch and key system unbalanced. Survivors could jump through really quickly. When Behaviour went to nerf the key, they also nerfed hatches into the ground. Because it used to be that the hatch would spawn when the number of generators completed was one more than the number of survivors left. And now it only spawns when one survivor's left. And for additional context, like in the previous system, the hatch did not spawn open. It required you to bring an item to use it. So like hypothetically, you could have 2 survivors with 3 gens done, and those 2 survivors, unless one of them had a key, they still couldn't use the hatch. So it wasn't like hatch was this broken system. With this change, the developers effectively made keys useless. Another instance of Behaviour taking things too far is with self-healing. So when Survivor self-healing got nerfed, this was in response to Circle of Healing. A lot of players thought it was too powerful, but many players thought the balance of Circle of Healing would have been to limit the number of times a totem could be blessed. This way, killers wouldn't have to worry about snuffing totems a million times because there would be a limit. And it's kind of like what they did with gen kicking. There's a limit to the number of times killers can kick a gen. Instead, Behaviour basically took away the ability to self-heal. Not only did they take away that part of Circle of Healing, They also made it so that medkits can only heal one health state. And then they also nerfed perks like self-care that already had a terrible pick rate because they were so bad. But for some reason, Behavior, in response to Circle of Healing, decided just to completely nerf Survivor self-healing. And seeing these kind of updates, it feels like Behavior isn't watching their own game. They're not studying the players and what they're doing. It doesn't feel like they're trying to figure out why bad faith players are playing like they do. I don't even want to call these band-aid fixes because I don't even think they provide temporary relief from the issues DBD is trying to address. But what do you guys think? Are you excited for these new preventions? What would you change instead? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe so I can bring you more Dead by Daylight content.